Hey guys, it's Kip here from KDC Marketing, and in today's video, I'm going to show you the difference between section grids and CSS grid down here inside of the layout tools where you add your elements in Wix Studio. So section grid, I'm going to go ahead and add this grid to my canvas, and I have two columns here. And if I look at the layers panel, underneath section grid, I have two cells, and these cells are going to act like containers. But once I apply the CSS grid to this section, so I'm going to do that on the right hand side this time and go over here and click apply. And once I apply this, I can't go back to section grid. So I'm going to click apply. I start out with this one-to-one container here. So here's my section. I'm going to create a 2x1. So it's the same layout that we see up here with this section grid. But you'll notice in the CSS grid that there's no cell container underneath. And that's because each of these grid cells here don't act like a container like they do in section grid. So let me show you how that plays out inside of Wix Studio. So I'm going to add an image here to this side. I'm going to stretch it. And because it's a container, it's going to live underneath this cell. That image element will live there, and I can't stretch it across both these cells. But in the advanced CSS grid side, if I add this cell here and stretch it, by default it'll only fill that first grid cell. But then if I hold shift, I can make it move across both cells. So that's one of the main differences between these two grids is the CSS grid gives you way more flexibility in terms of what you can do and the responsive behaviors. And it's a lot more complex than the section grid. But this is just scratching the surface of what it can do. So I'm just going to show you one more thing to kind of make this point a bit more clear. So I'm going to go back to my section itself. So that image just lives under the section. There's no cell in between. I'm going to add another row. So you can see I added a new row down here. And now I have 4 grid cells. So 2 up here, 2 down there. And I can add this image now in multiple places. So if I just click these different locations, it's going to hop around. But if I want it to just be in these 2 grid cells over here on the left side, I can do that by holding shift. Or if I want it to be in all 4, I can do it as well by holding shift. Or if I want it just to be in one, or if I want it to go across the top or across the bottom, all of that's possible inside of CSS grid. And the measurements are different than the section grid itself. If you go in here to look at these columns, and you can see, sorry, let me go to the section grid here, the CSS grid. These are the measurements. I'm not going to cover all these today, but you have a lot more options here than you would normally have in section grid for responsive behaviors and how to lay out this grid. So for most of the things that I do, the section grid works just fine. But every so often, if I have something that's a bit more complex, then I will use the CSS grid. And I'm starting to use this more and more. The more I learn about how it works, the more I like using it. And so I wanted to highlight this today, that it can be really cool and powerful if you start to understand how it functions and what you can do with it. So that's what I have for today's video, just something very basic, but wanted to point out that main difference that there aren't any containers other than the main container here for the section itself, or a section grid is by default going to put everything that you put in a cell. It's going to act like a container. So you can't really stretch it across these different cells and that sort of thing. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next video.